Two of the worst incidents to ever take place at Lightwater Valley Family Adventure Park involved the infamous Treetop Twister roller coaster. The year 2001 marked a dark year for the park, which since 1969 prided itself on being a safe, incident-free family park with plenty of fun attractions. Everything changed in 2001 when a young girl died and several people were injured by a horrific collision of two different carriages on the infamous Treetop Twister roller coaster. A more recent incident that resulted in the closure and sale of the Treetop Twister ride involved a 7-year-old child who sustained serious internal injuries after falling from the twister while it was in motion. Stay tuned for all the details about Lightwater Valley Amusement Park and the incidents that took place on the infamous Treetop Twister roller coaster, which killed Gemma Savage and more recently, nearly killed another child. Lightwater Valley Family Adventure Park is a 175-acre theme park located in the city of Ripon in North Yorkshire, England. It is famed for being a fun and family-focused park, and also for the fact that it has exchanged hands a few too many times since opening. It initially opened as a farm in 1969, and a year later the owners began adding attractions. Later, in 1997, it was bought by Queensborough Holdings. In 2001, it was sold to Ball Investments, who employed Heritage Great Britain to operate it. In 2017, it was sold again to Livingston Leisure, and finally, in 2021, the park was sold to the Brighton Pier Group. The Treetop Twister roller coaster first opened at Lightwater Park in May 2001, and merely 3 weeks into operations, it resulted in the death of a patron in a terrifying incident. It remained in operation at the park until 2019, after which it was shut down and removed. Soon, it was sold to British showman Emerson Edwards, who refurbished it and turned it into a travelling ride often seen in carnivals in the UK. The 1,377-foot-long, 42-feet-high Treetop Twister can reach the speed of 32 miles per hour, was built by French manufacturer Rotherham. It's a wild mouse roller coaster that features sharp, unbanked turns that are navigated by single-car vehicles fit for full passengers. Even though it has no loops, the riders are thrilled by the sudden, quick changes in direction. The carriages are also designed to be wider than the track, giving riders the feeling of hanging over the edge and that they could fly out on the non-banked turns. At 1:45 p.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of June 2001, a horrific incident took place on the Treetop Twister, leading to the death of 20-year-old Gemma Louise Savage from Rotherham. The heartbreaking incident did not kill Gemma instantly. She initially suffered severe injuries and unfortunately passed away the next day at the hospital. Her neck and head injuries were simply too serious, and the doctors were unable to save her. On that miserable day, Gemma was having fun with some friends from Durham University, where she was studying medical sciences. It was natural for her to be excited about taking the park's newest and hottest attraction, the Treetop Twister roller coaster. 3 other passengers were also injured during the accident on the ride, which had then only been open for 3 weeks. One of them suffered a broken arm. The incident was a result of 2 carriages colliding together on track at high speed. It was a miracle that neither of the carriages derailed, which could have led to an even more disastrous and deadly incident. At first, a maintenance worker called Eric Butters was blamed after he confessed that he had never seen the Treetop Twister ride manual and was only trained for an hour at the Twister ride. Police investigators decided it was wrong to prosecute him because it was the park's responsibility to train staff and ensure that they can perform their jobs adequately. Nevertheless, soon investigators discovered that Eric Butters had nothing to do with the incident and that something was inherently wrong with the ride and the park's safety policies. As a result, a more detailed investigation by experts was launched. In October 2004, Deputy Coroner John Slateholm at Skipton Magistrates Court ruled death by misadventure. Soon, Lightwater Valley Attractions Limited was charged with failing to ensure the health and safety of riders, and Eric Butters was charged with failing to ensure safety through his work. Both pleaded guilty in 2006. The ride's manufacturer, Revachon Industries SA in France, was also convicted of 2 charges of failing to ensure the ride's safe design and construction. But they sort of got away with it and did not pay any fines because they were going through bankruptcy and the firm was liquidated in 2008. In the end, park owners and ride manufacturers were fined a total of $200,000 after it was discovered that the wiring on the ride was faulty. As for Eric Butters, who was the electrician responsible for maintaining the ride, he was fined $4,000. As a result of the incident, the park improved safety measures and was incident-free until 2019, when a child was nearly killed after falling off the same roller coaster that killed Gemma Savage. On May 19, 2019, around 11:30 p.m, the police were called to reports of a medical incident involving a child at Lightwater Valley theme park. The emergency crews rushed to the park and found a 7-year-old child whose name cannot be released as per British laws, suffering from injuries to the head. Initially, the child was still conscious, and his condition was presumed to be stable and non-life-threatening. However, after he was transferred by air ambulance to Leeds General Infirmary for treatment, his condition deteriorated due to internal bleeding and was put on life support for a week. Investigators later found that the child, who was with his mother on the ride at the time, had fallen from the infamous Treetop Twister roller coaster because he was not wearing his seatbelt, which should have been secured and checked by the workers before launching the carriage. The ride's cars feature a seatbelt and safety bar. The child's seatbelt was not fastened, and thus he slipped through the gap between the seat and restraining bar. It was a truly sad and horrific incident. At first, the victim was moving up and backward from his seat on the speedy ride. At some point, his upper body was halfway out and almost dangling from the back of the carriage. His mother was unable to grab him before he was ejected. Before he fell, people on the ground, including his father, watched in horror as the whole fiasco ensued in slow motion. Everyone, including people in the queue and spectators, was screaming for help and for the operator to stop the ride. Nevertheless, the operator did not hit the emergency brakes until it was too late. As soon as the child hit the ground, people, including his father, jumped over the fence and rushed to save him. At first, the child seemed sort of okay, despite the bleeding from his head. Luckily, an off-duty police officer was at the scene as it all happened and rushed to prevent people from moving the child, which could cause injuries and internal bleeding to deteriorate. The brave child was resilient and stayed conscious until he reached the hospital. He even talked to the paramedics during the flight to the hospital. Unfortunately, his internal wounds were serious and his condition deteriorated. He was on life support for a whole week, but once again, the brave child fought his way back to life and, within months, was perfectly fine and playing with other children. The ride was permanently shut down and sold after the investigation was completed. A judge later decided that the park failed in enforcing the policy of making the safety belt and restraint bar mandatory. The staff members were only trained to secure people with the restraint bar, which the judge found to be not good enough to hold passengers, especially youngsters, in position. The theme park owners admitted guilt and paid a fine of about $500,000. There were other incidents at the park over the years. In 2015, teenager Sasha Higgins, who was a park employee at the time, was carrying out a routine seatbelt check on the Treetop Twister ride when it suddenly started. The terrified young girl screamed for help as she was spun around in the carriage, only to hear her fellow ride operator, who had turned the ride on for a joke, laugh at her. Luckily, she was not injured, and the operator was fired. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell button to get notified every time we upload a new video that will take you to the heart of the scenes and mysteries of some of the most terrifying incidents, accidents, disasters, and paranormal events from around the world.